Hey pups, Arby here, and welcome back to another episode of Art Speaks. Today for this episode, I'll be randomly talking about my childhood stories, including but not limited to stories of injuries, sickness, good and bad, etc. That being said, on to the childhood stories of my childhood. One of the stories I remember well was when my parents took me to Toys R Us. It's actually being brought back to life, by the way, from what I've heard. And I picked out a plush dog when I was a little kid, and uncreatively enough, I called him Puppy. Yeah, I wasn't very good with names as a little kid. But to this day, I actually still have Puppy in my room right now as we speak. He and I have been through a lot over the years. He's actually very special to me and still holds a special place in my heart about 20 or so years later. The next story I may or may not remember very well, but remember some minor details. I also talked about this story in the past, and I got me a handsome scar on my foot from it. I used to live in an old trailer with my parents, and my dad was fixing the floor, so there were floor staples all over the place. And I was walking from either the bathroom or my parents' room to either the living room or my room or something like that. I don't remember. The next thing you know, my foot was stabbed by the staples. There are two versions of the story. My mom's version, where she said I was crying my eyes out from the pain and my foot was bleeding heavily, and another version I heard was that my mom was freaking out and I was trying to stop the bleeding. She was calling 911 frantically, probably calling my dad, my grandparents, anyone and everyone to see what she can do. But all I remember from that experience was my dad trying to comfort me, a doctor looking at my blood-coated foot. A few minutes later, boom, I'm on the couch eating ice cream, and there's a big old cast on my foot or leg area. I don't know. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can remember from that incident. The next story is one that everyone kept on telling me, which is pretty sweet, but also a very sad story. When I was a little kid, I got sick really easily. I had strep, cold, sore throat, any sickness you could think of as a kid. Except for maybe whooping cough and chicken pox, because I got vaccinated for all those. One of the stories I was told was when I had a stomach virus or the stomach flu. I was drained from all my energy, and I was an energetic kid. I was sweating really bad, and I looked as if I had either gone on a drug trip or an LSD trip. I can't remember which one it was, but I looked like I was extremely high. And my grandmother had called my mom to take me to the doctor, and I said, "Mama, you don't have to take me to the doctor. Mimi's taking really good care of me." Yes, that was what I called my grandmother. And that nearly made her cry, and she said to me, "Sweetie, I'm doing the best I can, but the doctor can find out what's wrong with you, and you'll feel better then." And that was probably the sweetest thing anyone's ever heard from a child who was very sick, and a grandmother doing her best to heal her. And to be honest, at the time of recording this was a pretty difficult story for me to tell because you guys probably know my situation at this point by now. So that was a hard one. Another story I think I remember well enough was when I dressed up as Blue from Blue's Clues on Halloween. I may or may not come back to this story in the future in October for Halloween-themed videos, but this story came back to me a few months ago or so. I was out trick-or-treating with my parents, and we came to this house, and there were a bunch of kids alongside me. One of them, I think, was dressed as Woody from Toy Story, and a few others that I barely even remember. And there was a skeleton guy with his face painted, and I can't remember if he, moved as if he was dead or just screamed and chased the kids, but the group of kids screamed and ran off. I kid you not, they actually did that. Because, well, they were kids. But me, I was brave, I was with my mom, and I wanted my dang candy. So I'm just sitting there with my mom alongside me, and I'm like, why are they running away from the guy? I came here to get candy. And that's what the other kids came here for too. So I'm gonna get all the candy while they run away. In the end, I did get me some candy, And that was probably my favorite costume as a little kid because I was a huge Blue's Clues fanatic as a little kid. And I still watch Blue's Clues today and I feel no shame in it whatsoever. Blue's Clues is awesome, dude. I also remember another story involving mostly my dad when my mom had to go to the hospital because of her gallbladder having to be removed. My dad took me home after he went grocery shopping at Walmart, and my poor dear old dad was just struggling to homeschool me, take care of me, pay the bills, get the groceries, and a bunch more. And he was just as struggling as a dad with his wife in the hospital and taking care of everything just as much as a single dad would. But my dad wasn't single just yet at the time. Thankfully, a church close to my home gave us a bunch of groceries, and there was a letter, and inside it was $150 for the electric bill, and the note said, "The Lord told me you needed this." To this day, we don't know who sent it, but if they're watching this, thank you so much. And if my dad were still alive today, I'm sure he'd thank you too. Now, this story is one that I still feel bad about today. My grandmother and mom took me to a movie theater to see Ice Age, and right at the beginning of the movie, I got up and left. Of course, every time the story was mentioned, I automatically felt like crap. So yeah. I didn't know if it was the dark, the loud noise the theater made, or what. As a kid, I was always very timid, and my aunt told me that I was a very tender child. Like, I hated goosebumps, I hated the dark, I just hated scary things in general. I was always called a scaredy cat as a kid, and some of my classmates and possible so-called friends tried to urge me to get into things they enjoyed, like goosebumps and other scary things, and kids are cruel, man. Kids are fucking cruel. Now, this one is one my dad and stepmom told me before. I was in the other room playing Hey You Pikachu, and I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I said, "Pikachu, thundershock the baby Caterpie." I wanted him to fight the Caterpie, apparently, from what I was told by my dad. And I was getting more and more frustrated with Pikachu not fighting the Caterpie, and him being all confused and saying, "Pika, Pika." And I'm like, "Pikachu, why won't you shock the baby Caterpie?" All the while, my dad and stepmom were laughing their butts off quietly from my weirdness and attempts to make Pikachu fight. But Hey You Pikachu was too cute of a game to make him fight other Pokemon. I still have the game, but I no longer have the microphone because our late dog Darla chewed it up when she was a puppy. I'm thinking of buying a new one, though. New microphone for the game, that is. I know a lot of people are going to say the game sucked, but it's my childhood. That game was my childhood. This might be the last story I have for now, but this may or may not be a long one, so let's get to work on it. So this happened back when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, maybe 2, somewhere around that age. My mom asked me if I wanted to visit my grandparents next door. Of course I said yes, and she said she was going to the bathroom. And either I forgot, or didn't know where she was, or what, so little toddler RP decided to dress up in a coat, shoes, no pants, but a diaper, and walk over next door by myself. When I knocked on the door, my grandmother answered it, and all I could say was, "I can't find my mama." Yeah, I actually said that. And my grandmother said, "Well, then let's try and find her." And let me inside while I ate Halloween-themed cookies. Or at least I think they were Halloween-themed, but I can't remember. Meanwhile, my mom, who had left the bathroom, started to freak out and panic, worried that her only daughter went out into the streets, got kidnapped, or worse, killed, and she frantically called 911, panicking about her missing baby when I was right next door. And just in time, my aunt came over and said, "Don't worry, she's next door with us." And my mom said, "Never mind, she's with her grandparents, she's fine, bye-bye," and hung up the phone. And that was how I scared my mom half to death, probably got lectured and spanked about going next door to my grandparents by myself, and my dad installing a lock on the door to where I couldn't reach it So yeah, monitor your kids, parents. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Art Speaks, and if you want to see more, be sure to hit that subscribe button to join the Pupper Pack today, and hit the bell to be notified for new videos. As always, I'll say to pups, and remember to stay awesome, stay strong, and stay beautiful little puppies.